Hello, good morning. My name is Peggy Tsai from BigID. Today, I will be talking about AI-powered data discovery for building a modern data governance program. Before I joined BigID a year ago, I was in your position where I helped to run and operationalize data management programs. I worked mainly in the financial services industry. My most recent role was in Morgan Stanley, where I helped operationalize their data governance program for wealth management. I also worked on other regulatory and business initiatives that focused on understanding their critical data elements, ensuring data remediation, and monitoring for data quality. I also recently co-authored the AI book that was published last year in May 2020. So a lot of the things I'll be talking about today is based on my experience as a data steward in working in various financial industries and the complexities that I personally felt when building out and broadening our data governance program. So when we talk to customers today, and even based on my experience, the main challenges with data governance is finding your data, knowing where your data is, and being able to understand the quality of that data. Now, many organizations, I like their data sources, I like to see it as an iceberg. The iceberg that's above the water is normally much smaller than what's actually beneath the water. The iceberg that's on top of the water is the known data sources that's in your organization, that's inventoried and cataloged. And that's mostly the structured data. And that's what a lot of your technology teams and data management teams are working with, are able to understand because it's all inventoried and cataloged. But what about the data that resides underneath the water? And that's where a lot of the risks lie, because the data that's not known is oftentimes provides a larger risk to your organization. These are most oftentimes unstructured data, dark data, data that hasn't been labeled or classified or fully understood. And the reason why it's difficult to understand this is just because of the mass quantity of this data. And really the sheer amount of resources it's really going to take to find and identify that data. But there's really an opportunity here, not just a challenge, but an opportunity to really be able to break down the silos of the data, whether it's within organization or whether it's data that's just not been used, is to bring it all together into one cohesive data governance program and managing it for all business purposes. Now, the way that technology companies today, and technology teams traditionally find data is, based on, writing a code, writing a query to extract and find that data. And again, that's really very simple when it comes to data that's known in a structured format. But again, the challenges and the risks are with where the data is more in a document form or it hasn't been fully classified yet. When we talk to customers on finding their critical data or their sensitive data across all their data sources, they rely on these traditional approaches to finding the data. In addition to querying data in a straightforward manner, there are other techniques that are used in the marketplace today to find the data, whether it's through patterns. For example, a credit card number has a specific pattern in the sequence of the numbers. Regular expression is another way to find things like locations and, for an address, the city, state, zip code, things like that. And another approach as a former data steward is really building out a data dictionary that helps find the data. This involves manually tagging that data and being able to put labels in it. Again, these are very time-intensive, resource-intensive activities in order to put the metadata to describe your actual data. There's various levels of categories in regards to the risk level, the usage level, and actually the content level. So these are many manual approaches to tagging the data. Now, when I think about a data governance program, which is usually led by a chief data officer, and many organizations have a chief data officer today, the way they run their program, whether they're looking at their data quality or their business glossary assets or their data issues, they normally have to go to different applications to see this information. Again, it's disjointed. It leads to an inability to really make a decision and understand the health of the entire data organization. So what's lacking today is, what I call a control center, a comprehensive data dashboard that can really bring together the aspects of a catalog, data quality, and remediation data issues into one singular place in order for the chief data officer and the data teams to gain the right insights into their data and also to take the right actions. Now I'm going to be talking about some of the parts of a data governance program that I myself have personally been involved in the past. And data catalog, people sometimes call this a business dictionary, a data dictionary, or a precursor to an inventory. So it's really a single place or a listing of all the data assets that an organization has across their landscape. This can include, the business name, the definition, and also identify the actual location of this data. And that's really important as part of a data governance team to understand not only do you know what you have in terms of your logical data assets, you also know where it resides as well. Now, this single view of data that I think a lot of organizations really looking to build involves collaboration. Mainly, these are folks called with the title of data steward that works to collaborate, to integrate, enrich these logical assets and really bring more value to the data because they're enriching the data, they're providing more context into how the data is actually used in a business sense. So all that information and knowledge should be collected and documented in a single place. Another big component of a data governance program is data quality. And sometimes people see this as the most important component. And the reason is it's very measurable. It's the most visual part of seeing the progress of a data governance program. So whether it's trends or seeing the data quality score increase or decrease or change, it really gives something actionable for the chief data officer and the data team to take action on. So data quality and being able to see that holistically is very important. Now, to begin with, in any data governance program, before you actually find the data and know your data, we focus a lot on data discovery. I think it's an important concept to really having a strong data management program because you really need to know where all your assets are in your organization. So chief data officers, I think a lot of the biggest pain points they have, and as they shared with us, is the fact that they stay up late at night, and these are things they worry about is what new data is being created or being ingested in my organization that I'm just not aware of. So again, referencing back to the iceberg, what is the data that's below the waterline that I'm just not sure I have. I'm not sure if it's part of my governance processes, and just making sure that they have complete understanding of the coverage of the data that's within their organization. And secondly, with automated data discovery, really ability to automate a lot of the manual tasks that goes on today within a governance team. So for example, not only do they have to know what their data is, they have to know where their data is. So being able to link their logical assets to their physical objects, what table and columns, something like an email address is saved in, whether it's in your customer database, your sales and marketing, your financial database may have all this information. You need to be able to document all the instantiations of this data, but you don't want to do this manually. And oftentimes this is a joint manual effort by your teams. And this is where automation can really help to modernize and reduce a lot of these activities. And by bringing in automation as well, you're able to put in a process where it's continuous monitoring. You don't have to rely on a person, a resource to actually be doing the checking and the curation and this type of validation on new data that may have popped up in your organization. So being able to show to audit that you have an automated continuous monitoring process certainly helps to increase the overall maturity of your program. So I'm going to talk about really BigID data discovery. This will be the 1 or 2 slides talking about more of the specific product in itself. And to use this as a comparison to how we do data discovery. So, first of all, it's most important thing is extensible data coverage. I mean, being able to connect to all the data sources. You don't want to build a governance program that's very siloed, that only focuses on 1 or 2 data sources, just because it's not going to be leverageable and scalable in your entire organization. So being able to connect to all your, your Hadoops, your SAPs, your Workdays, if you're using Google Cloud, all the data's possible sources need to be connected and built and produced in what we call a catalog. So a catalog is really our ability to not only collect your metadata, your technical, business, operational metadata, but being able to bring together your structured and unstructured data into one view. Classification. And this is really important because I remember as a data steward, spending manual time to look through each of the data values and identifying the sensitivity level. So being able to automate the sensitivity level, the risk level, and the actual content and classify that and label that through machine learning today, is such a time saver and it's much more efficient. And leveraging machine learning to do this will help complete the classification of all the data that's in your organization. So it's data that's in your structured and unstructured, so including documents that can be classified. And this is really important so it can provide faster time to value within your organization. It can be consumed faster and earlier in the data life cycle to your analytics and data science teams. So it's really great, big benefits that we see in terms of classification. Now, cluster analysis is one of our patented methodologies to leverage machine learning to understand groupings of your data that's probably duplicate or very similar. And right now we see it in the unstructured world where you want to know how many copies of a document or an Excel file that you have saved. And it's really important when you're talking about saving the memory in terms of the database space. You want to cut down on how many duplicates you have, or you're doing a data lake or a cloud migration. You really want to be able to only keep the golden copies of your data. So being able to do that analysis in a smart way is where cluster analysis can really come in. And lastly here, correlate. This is where it's really critical for compliance to privacy regulations like GDPR, and in the United States, California Consumer Privacy Act. It's It's really helpful because not only do you have to identify within your data organization what is personal information, there's a concept of personal identifiable information. So information like your health and medical records to your cookie settings and IP records, those are identifiable information that may not necessarily be tied to an individual and it's saved in your database. It's probably information that's saved in other databases, but it still describes a single person or entity, therefore needs to be produced when the data subject access requests are required. So that's where it's tricky for technology teams to be able to find this information directly, because these are indirect attributes that ties to a person. So correlation has been really key in helping many organizations be compliant with privacy protection laws, but also being able to find and correlate all related information that's tied to a person. Now, when chief data officers and data management programs have this foundation, the single source of truth that's built on automation, machine learning, smarter insights, on top of that foundation, we can build very specific capabilities that's for privacy, security, and when it comes to governance, smarter data quality, data retention rules, because we're able to already read through the files. We know when like a file has last been updated or opened, and we can compare it to the relevant policy. So things like that are already being done today when it comes to a catalog and to a data quality rule is can run more efficiently. It can be more scalable with the AI discovery foundation. So just to sum up a bit, machine learning AI-led discovery, leverages machine learning to content. Identify the content faster and smarter, and label it using natural language processing. In terms of enriching the data, it's automated based on our ability to leverage these classifiers and also be able to take action on your data in a smarter way, because you know the clusters that are duplicates and you know everything as correlated or related tied back to a person or entity. So it's really about intelligent classification. And some of the benefits that we've really seen from our customers and for many people that we've spoken to is, well, what are the business benefits? So in terms of a catalog, many organizations have to, document the processes or, document the information. Instead of doing it manually, a catalog that's, can be automatically collected and updated can reduce the work that needs to go into this documentation process. And also the fact that our catalog, you want to look at a catalog that not only has structured information, but you want to be able to see all your data assets holistically in one place. And if that's possible, then certainly being able to see the impacts of one change can do on other applications and other documents is something that's much easier to see if you have the full understanding of that. And also the ability to, within your catalog, not only are you seeing the classifiers, but really one view, that dashboard view that I spoke about, where chief data officers can see their assets, see the classifications of what their data is, and also the profiling statistics of within data quality to understand the completeness of the data. Is this a data value that's missing information that I should be alerted to take further action on? So that's a value of this type of information. And again, classification is one of the biggest pain points, I think, as a data steward, to not really being able to understand the data, taking the time to review the data value and then to confirm it with a subject matter expert. That takes time, and imagine doing it for every single data set and data element that's really time consuming. So really being able to leverage AI to your benefit and to have these labels applied earlier in the lifecycle management so that it can be consumed by your data science, data analytics teams, or any other business user, so that and everyone is clear exactly on what this data is and what it should be used for. I spoke briefly about clustering, and it's certainly been used in our cloud migration use cases. And if you think about the many organizations are beginning or on their way to journey to the cloud, really it's not a simple lift and shift activity. It takes careful analysis to prioritize the data sets that should be migrated over, and then within each data set, figuring out exactly which ones should go into the cloud. And before that journey can be successful, one, you need to actually have a very complete inventory of what you have, where it is, and exactly where it's being migrated. You also want to take this opportunity to clean up your data. So being able to see all the duplicates, you want to reduce the redundancies and fix any data quality issues before you do the migration. So these are the type of activities that need to be done, but how can you do that in a smart way? So certainly a technique like clustering can help you reduce the risk and making sure that you're adhering to your organization's data policies as well as when you're doing the cloud migration. And then once the data is migrated to the cloud, being able to connect to that data to your other data sources and structures, and making sure that everything is in alignment as well. So that's another consideration to think about, is the maintenance part of your cloud journey as well, even after it's been done. So I'm going to talk about some of the use cases that we've seen specifically. I think many of the organizations that we've seen, started with the need to do a privacy or some type of regulatory driven initiative. So in this first use case, it's a global athletic brand retail company that has over $150 billion in revenue, 73,000 employees, and really looking at over 1,200 data sources. And having a need to comply with GDPR and their local privacy laws, being able to look in their entire landscape and identify what is sensitive, being able to classify and label specifically their personal information that's tied to a customer, employee, and also the personally identifiable information. So having a need to classify, and I see that in use cases, whether it's in privacy, security, and data governance, or other organizations that really have a project for classification. And then from there, putting it into a catalog that can display the classification, bring together the different product lines in the retail company, being able to align and manage not only their products, but their customer data, their employee data, and making sure that they are in compliance with privacy. But over the last few years, this company has also looked into expanding and their data governance program, because they've seen the benefits of this data catalog, how it's helped them identify sensitive private data, being able to expand that to the definition of sensitivity, other types of critical data when it comes to their product, to shipping their product, other types of critical and confidential data that they want to make sure is also being monitored. And to be able to classify and tag that, it's been quite important for them. The second use case is much larger in scale. It's a global marketing and digital brand and portfolio company. So within this portfolio company, they have assets in the finance, in healthcare, and retail. So it's really a multi-billion-dollar company with multiple brands that they have to keep siloed, but also being able to understand their privacy initiatives as well. Because of their status as a global company, there's multiple regulations that they have to be compliant with. So this is how do they juggle and manage the fact that there are sometimes differentiating and distinct regulations in each local region that they have to be mindful of. So being able to comply with HIPAA in healthcare, and also finding their personal information, and bringing together their structured data and unstructured data. Have multiple data sources across the globe that they have to be mindful of. So in terms of federation, being able to see a singular view, but also having the local view in which the local offices can manage their data as well. So in really summary here, by having a modern data governance program, starting with data discovery to know your data will lead to know where your data is, and leading to know the quality of your data. All those three basic component parts, starts with data discovery. So advocating for, expanding beyond, structured as your source. It's really unstructured where we see a lot of the risk and compliance teams really raising their hands and saying that there are issues in terms of being able to have a complete holistic view of their data and being able to identify it through classification, and also being able to take action on it based on clustering and correlation. This is really where we see machine learning and AI driving these analysis, helping a chief data officer modernize and scale and grow their data governance capabilities much faster. So we see a lot of traction in this area, and we hope to really have this opportunity to anyone that's interested in learning more about BigID or data discovery, or even some of the use cases that we see that have been beneficial for financial services and insurance, healthcare, retail companies. So thank you everyone for your time today, and be sure to visit BigID at our virtual booth. Thank you.